everyone, I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me for this explainer. Today, we are setting out on a very specific mission, and that is to completely demystify your home's heating and cooling systems. This is especially crucial if you live in a region that sees extreme climate shifts. We're going to break down exactly what happens to your home comfort systems when the weather just goes wild. And more importantly, we'll cover how you can protect your hard-earned investment.
Now, you might be wondering, what actually happens to a house when the temperature swings 40 degrees in just 24 hours? Honestly, it sounds like some kind of extreme hypothetical science experiment. But for homeowners in places like central Indiana, well, that's just a regular Tuesday in the spring or fall. We're going to use the Franklin and Greater Johnson County area as our ultimate stress test today, mainly because this specific climate pushes home mechanics to their absolute breaking points.
Think of it like a continuous war being waged right there on your home comfort systems. On one side, you've got brutal summer humidity, regularly pushing that 80% mark. That heavy moisture literally rots out older ductwork and crawl spaces and forces your air conditioners to work severe overtime. Then, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, you have these freezing winters. Sub-20-degree temperatures demand that furnaces run constantly, and that causes severe thermal stress that can actually crack heat exchangers. It's a lot to deal with.
Let's dive right into Section 1, the extreme climate test.
Okay, so we really need to look at how local geography specifically impacts the lifespan of your HVAC equipment, because it's not just the air above ground, it's what's happening right beneath your feet too. Down in areas like historic downtown Franklin, the heavy clay soil actually shifts with moisture changes. When it rains, the soil swells up like a sponge, and when it's dry, it cracks and shrinks. This constant, relentless movement is literally shifting the ground beneath your home, putting intense mechanical stress on ductwork connections and those underground refrigerant lines over the years.
Because of these really aggressive local factors, the math completely changes. A heating and cooling system that might easily last 18 years in a mild, dry climate, it might tap out at just 12 to 15 years here. If your home happens to be near a floodplain, like the neighborhoods near Hurricane Creek, that excess humidity is going to accelerate corrosion on your outdoor units. Add in the thermal stress from those constant freeze-thaw cycles, and your equipment is basically running a marathon every single day.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, Anatomy of HVAC Failures.
So we've established the environmental villains. Now let's take a look at the actual casualties of this weather war. There are 4 really common breakdowns directly resulting from the extremes we just talked about. First up, frozen evaporator coils, which usually stem from restricted airflow, forcing the compressor to work way too hard. Second, cracked heat exchangers. These are incredibly dangerous because they can actually leak carbon monoxide. Third, you've got refrigerant leaks that completely zap your cooling capacity. And finally, ductwork leaks. Now, this is absolutely critical. Leaky ducts in an attic or crawl space can waste 20 to 40% of your conditioned air. You are literally paying to heat or cool the great outdoors. No way, right? So the crucial point here is knowing how to spot these failures before they actually happen. And that brings us to something called short cycling. This is when an HVAC system turns on and off repeatedly without ever completing a full cycle. If you notice this, it is a massive red flag. Your system is basically begging for help, and it almost always indicates a developing problem before you're hit with a total middle-of-the-night emergency breakdown. Which brings us to Section 3, to repair or replace. This perfectly sets us up for the question literally every homeowner dreads. Do I repair this thing or do I replace it? Well, we are going to turn that abstract repair anxiety into simple, actionable math. And here is the magic number, $5,000. This is known as the $5,000 rule, and let me tell you, it is the absolute ultimate heuristic for homeowners trying to make a smart financial decision about their failing equipment. Let me show you exactly how this works. And this brilliantly illustrates the rule in action. It's super simple. You just multiply the age of your system by the quoted repair cost. So let's say you have a 12-year-old system facing a $500 repair. 12 times 500 equals $6,000. That's over the $5,000 threshold, meaning a full replacement makes way more financial sense. But what if you have a 5-year-old system with a $400 repair? That's only $2,000. In that case, you just repair it. It's great because it takes the emotion completely out of the decision.
Now, if the math does tell you it's time to replace, this next number should make you feel a little bit better. $2,000. Under the 2024 Inflation Reduction Act, you can potentially score a tax credit up to $2,000 for qualifying high-efficiency heat pumps, AC units, or furnaces installed in your primary residence. So upgrading your system to handle those crazy climate extremes
actually comes with a built-in financial incentive.
But listen, if you do end up replacing it, you have to remember this. A typical 2,000 square foot home usually needs a 3 to 4 ton system. However, that exact size must be determined strictly by something called a manual J load calculation. This is the industry's strict mathematical standard. Never, ever let someone just guess. And please, don't just swap in the exact same size unit you had before without running the numbers. Why? Because the original unit might have been sized wrong from day one. Undersized systems are going to run constantly, and oversized ones, they create massive, massive humidity problems.
Let's move on to Section 4, the Homeowners Rulebook. Let's talk about the proactive strategies you can implement right now to survive these extreme climates and protect your system. Here is what the ideal chronological life cycle of a system looks like. Day 1 is all about that proper load calculation and a flawless installation. Then, from year 1 through 14, your focus is entirely on annual tune-ups and keeping those filters clean. If you actually stick to that, you get to years 15 through 20, where your well-maintained system finally reaches the end of its natural lifespan instead of dying a totally premature death at year 10.
As part of that maintenance routine, I want to teach you the highly practical 3-minute rule. It's so simple, if you ever turn off your AC, you absolutely must wait at least 3 minutes before restarting it. Doing this allows the refrigerant pressures inside the entire system to equalize. If you just immediately flip it back on, you are forcing the compressor to work against intense high pressure that heavily strains internal components and significantly shortens its life. 3 minutes of patience can literally save you thousands of dollars.
Finally, we're at Section 5, choosing the right professionals. Because let's be real, despite all your best efforts, things will inevitably break at 2 a.m. on the coldest night of the year, and you need to know how to call in the cavalry. I absolutely love this quote from Reliance HVAC in Indianapolis, who services that Franklin area we've been using as our stress test. They say, "We want to be the company you call for the next 20 years, and that only happens when we treat your home like we treat our own." That ethos, looking for a 20-year relationship rather than just a quick one-off sale, is exactly what you should be looking for in a service partner.
When that emergency does strike, you need to hold your ground. These are your absolute non-negotiables. You must demand a true 24/7 response with no extra holiday fees. You want local dispatchers who actually know your neighborhood's housing stock. You want fully stocked trucks carrying parts common to your specific area so repairs actually happen in one single visit. And always, always demand transparent, upfront pricing before any work even begins. No surprises.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. With extreme weather literally always around the corner, is your system truly ready for the next big seasonal shift? Don't wait until it's 20 degrees or 100 degrees outside to find out. Use the math we talked about, remember that 3-minute rule, and get ahead of the weather. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.